Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I am seeing in my peripheral vision things pop into existence. Yes, good. I'm going to take it that I am up since I'm seeing myself moving and shaking now. Let me check my sound. I try to do this every show just out of, here we are, good. And then playback. That's why I do that. All right, good. Hope everyone is good this morning. Like I said, I haven't necessarily nailed down exactly when and what times I'm going to do my shows. Usually it's between 5 and 6. I still do those shows, but I've started doing shows during the daytime also, just to see if there's an audience for it. And for all intents and purposes, I like doing it, especially when news is happening in the moment, you know, because you're going through the course of the day. So I am going. Oh, by the way, Laura Steiner is going to be here tonight at 5 p.m. She was a woman who I did a story on, who was talking about the booing thing, Operation Boo, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it Operation Boo or Operation Resistance. But this clandestine and secret plot inside the Democratic National Convention to get across their frustration and disdain of what the Democratic Party had done. So she's going to be here tonight at 5 p.m. That's going to be awesome. I am up this morning. It's a cold, snowy day in Virginia. It's the first day of spring, and yet it is also a snowstorm here in Richmond. So everyone is stuck in the house. All the businesses, or many of the businesses, are closed. At least the one I was supposed to go to this morning. So I am wide awake. So let's do the news. Let's do the news. The story that I'm about to do is not. It shouldn't be news, but it is news because mainstream media just sucks that bad. I'm on my Twitter feed again. Didn't sleep all that well. Didn't sleep at all. And the story pops into the feed about Donald Trump shaking Vladimir Putin, or giving Vladimir Putin congratulations for winning the presidency. For whatever reason, this was a story. This was a major story. I still don't quite know why. At least in a reality standpoint, I don't quite know why. I understand the political standpoint. Donald Trump was told by his advisors not to congratulate Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump said, fuck all, and congratulated Vladimir Putin. And I don't give Donald Trump compliments all that often, but good fucking job for telling those guys to fuck off. When he said, and he didn't tell them fuck off. I'm just saying, he congratulated Vladimir Putin. He said, good job. Now, here's the thing. They didn't want him to congratulate Putin because he already is taking so much flack for this Russia nonsense. And therein lies the weirdness of the left's position on this. They want him, or the incentive is to be antagonistic towards a nuclear power nation, to be against that country and against Vladimir Putin himself. So much so that they're literally giving him flack for saying congratulations on winning the presidential election. Now, whether that election was real, whether that election was staged, is kind of besides the point. Formality, or this kind of political formality, is something that takes place all the time. It is weird to make the assertion of, hey, don't congratulate that leader on something that took place in his country. Again, even if it's just political theater, it's a theater that is somewhat prized in regards to the relations between states. I mean, understand what I'm saying here. If they're hitting him for even saying congratulations, what is the incentive? The incentive is to not say congratulations, since you're being pressured from the standpoint of, if you say congratulations, we're going to scream and we're going to holler and we're going to say bad things about you. Donald Trump did it anyway, and good for Donald Trump. I mean, I suspect the only thing that's indicative of is not wanting to be told what to do. You're fucking president of the United States. You can congratulate whoever you want to congratulate. This is the story that I woke up to. Trump reportedly received notes saying, do not congratulate Putin, which he ignored. Now, people are howling that this is evidence of something. There's one particular person who I want to talk about, but this is not just one person. This is multiple people on my Twitter feed that have bitched and moaned about this. What do not congratulate says about Donald Trump. Trump congratulates Putin on the elections. Leader look to meet soon. This is Reuters. Reuters is a little bit more in the middle on this. Democrat representative, Trump congratulating Putin is like congratulating the Harlem Globetrotters. Congratulating Vladimir Putin is like Trump congratulating the Harlem Globetrotters. The insinuation being that Donald Trump is the Washington Generals, that the fix is in, that these guys are working together to such a coordinated capacity that both of them, for all intents and purposes, are rigging the system in which way they can go about their political affairs. Think about what she's saying here. I mean, I find these responses to be amazing. Let's keep going. There's more. Jimmy Kimmel lacerates Donald Trump for congratulating Vladimir Putin. Trump congratulates Putin in a call, discusses... I want to talk about that one later. Trump congratulates Putin on the election victory. Kremlin says... Trump congratulates Putin on victory in election fraud with ballot. Like, an election fraught with ballot... what is this? Oh, ballot stuffing. I think they're probably going to say ballot stuffing. Ballot stuffing accusations. So, and there are pages of these. This was the story that they reported. Trump reportedly received notes saying he did not congratulate Putin. That was the story. I want to really put a pin in that point. That was the story. Now, that's not the only story. I mean, because understand, anybody who's looking at a particular story and is writing a particular story is giving it a particular lens. It's not the story. It's a story. It's one story out of many stories for any particular incident. What is the lens? What is the viewpoint of the person who's writing it? And for whatever reason, this is the one that latched on in this incident. Donald Trump congratulates the president of another country for winning an election. Even if the election was fraudulent, Donald Trump congratulates another leader of a country for winning an election. He was told not to do so because the internal politics of the country of a lot of batshit crazy people are accusing him of working with that particular leader, and they didn't want to deal with the politics of Donald Trump congratulating him. Now, the very act of creating the letter put a certain amount of emphasis on it, but whatever. That's essentially what it boils down to. That's the main motivation here. These guys are not going to tell me that I can't congratulate this guy. That's not evidence of anything other than somebody rebelling against the constraints that they're trying to put on him. And the constraints they're trying to put on him is literally with this kind of push towards being more antagonistic. I'm trying to get that across. This is fucking dangerous and just weird. Donald Trump says he wants to go to meet Kim Jong-un, and the people freak out saying, how dare he go and make peace talks? And in this case, he calls the leader of a country to which we've been extremely hostile towards, and they freak out. I want to talk more so about Brennan on this. I want to use him as my emblematic symbol. Brennan on Trump congratulating Putin, congratulatory call for Putin. Russia may have things they can use against the President of the United States. Because to Brennan, ex-spook, ex-liar, well, not ex-liar, but ex-spook, liar to Congress, defender of torture, John Brennan is essentially insinuating that they have something on him, that this is a robot theory, that he's an animatronic robot that Vladimir Putin controls, and that the only reason that this animatronic robot called Donald Trump would congratulate the president of another country is that that president of that other country has something on that exact same Donald Trump. Let's read a little bit into it. Former CIA Director John Brennan appeared on Morning Joe. And isn't it weird how all of these spooks just come out the woodwork and appear on these talk shows? Like, they're offering commentary from an ex-spook as news and as information that the public needs. Is that really a perspective that the public needs? Can the public perhaps get another perspective that is not necessarily ensconced within the CIA's architecture? I mean, shit, man, you're presenting this as if it's actual fact. The guy's a liar for a living. He was the head liar, the head spook. So, but whatever. That's just my pet peeve with this stuff. You're not really getting information in this case. You're getting the perspective of an ex-spook who has a certain bias and a certain disposition. You don't have a counter to that. And you're using it as if that is actual, the perspective, or that's actually the most informed perspective for the American audience. They have different intentions. I guess that's what I'm saying. You can't necessarily trust what Brennan is saying as if it's this kind of non-partisan thing. He's a political actor, just like they are political actors. Don't use him as if he's actual information or source of this kind of unbiased information. Former CIA Director John Brennan appeared on Morning Joe today in order to tear into Donald Trump and express his view that the president doesn't criticize Russia because Vladimir Putin really has leverage on him, might have leverage on him. Oh, glad he had it, might. In a few weeks, Brennan unleashed several scathing criticisms about Trump's performance, his policies, and his animosity with members of the intelligence community. When asked to elaborate on Wednesday, Brennan blasted Trump for his political mistakes and talked about how the constitutional crisis would surely happen if Robert Mueller is fired from the Russia investigation. The only reason that Trump would do it is because Putin has something on him. Fact is, this ex-spook lied to Congress. Not just lied to Congress. This guy supported and backed up torture. You should know the quality of the person who's making the commentary in this case, meaning this particular guy who they have on the news. The public should know his disposition in regards to torture. They should know his disposition in regard to lying to Congress, both of which are against the law. Both of which are against the law. And one more point. If Brennan has such an issue with this, also, yeah, drone program also. If Brennan has such an issue with this, did he have an issue with this when Obama did the exact same thing? That looks like Vladimir fucking Putin. And that looks like Obama. I mean, he's black. And they're saying he's the president. I'm assuming it's Obama. And they seem to be shaking hands with that traditional smile. Did Brennan have an issue with this? I don't remember anyone having an issue with this. I don't remember Brennan having an issue with this. Doesn't mean that Vladimir Putin has something on Barack Obama. And beyond that, this was after the conflict in Georgia, after the imprisonment of Pussy Riot, after the claims that Putin had numerous journalists and dissidents killed, after the death by poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko in the UK, after claims from the United States Department that Putin cheated in the elections. Wow. Does it mean that Vladimir Putin also has something on Obama, if we're being fair? I mean, Obama is shaking hands with this guy. And apparently he's a really bad guy. I keep being told he's a bad guy. I mean, look at all this shit. Conflict in Georgia after the imprisonment of Pussy Riot, claims that Putin had German. And Obama still shook his hand. I mean, clearly, Vladimir Putin and his Russian troll army, the overweight guys who are sending Facebook ads or mean tweets and Facebook ads, they must have had something on Obama in order for Obama to shake his hand with a big smile like that. You know what they completely missed? What was Trump actually having a conversation about? They completely missed that. That's not important. I mean, you're doing a story talking about the president of the United States talking to somebody else, and the thing that they come away with, that all of these articles, all these people, all these Democrats foaming at the mouth, all of these people walk away with Donald Trump congratulated Putin. What were they actually having a conversation about? That's not important. That's not important. Trump congratulates Putin in a call, discusses curbing the arms race. They're having a conversation about bringing down tensions and bringing down nuclear weapons. Understand what's being said. The president of the United States is discussing with the president of Russia curbing nuclear weapons or curbing arms and curbing hostilities and more coordinated action in Syria to prevent a catastrophe of epic proportions, meaning the end of nuclear war. That's the conversation. How come that's not the topic? I mean, that seems like a big fucking deal considering everything that's been taking place. The president of the United States decides he wants to ease tensions with Russia. Why is that not the topic? That seems like a big fucking deal to me, especially if you're calling yourself a lefty. Deeply progressive. Trump congratulates Putin in a call, discusses curbing the arms race. Let's read a bit of an article. President Trump called Russia President Vladimir Putin to congratulate the Kremlin leader on his re-election win Sunday, the Kremlin said in a statement. The Kremlin press service said the two presidents also spoke about the need for closer coordination and strategic stability and counterterrorism. In general, the conversation was constructive, businesslike, and focused on overcoming the accumulated problems in Russia-American relations, the Kremlin said in a statement. Trump and Putin also discussed conflicts in the Ukraine and Syria, as well as tensions on the Korean peninsula, according to the statement. On Ukraine and Syria, both noted the importance of swift progress in the settlement. Both leaders said they were satisfied with the decrease in tensions on the Korean peninsula, but said consistent efforts should continue towards resolving the situation by peaceful diplomatic means. Earlier this month, Putin gave a 40-minute presentation of the State of the Nation, televised earlier, about Russia's development of new nuclear missiles and other weapons. On diplomatic areas, the Kremlin stated that Trump and Putin agreed to develop further bilateral contacts in the aftermath of a tit-for-tat diplomatic standoff over last year that resulted in significant staff reductions at the United States mission in Russia, as well as Russia diplomatic corps in the United States. The possibility of a top-level meeting was mentioned, the Kremlin said. Earlier in the day, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Putin wasn't bothered by the fact that the White House did not immediately schedule a call to congratulate him on his election. Peskov told reporters essentially that people get busy, particularly presidents, and perhaps Trump needed to sleep on it for a while before calling. Putin received nearly 77% of the vote on Sunday, clearly the way for another 6 years in Kremlin. Now, I don't know if Vladimir Putin rigged the vote. Maybe, possibly. I got to be honest, I don't particularly care. It's not my country. If they want to deal with the issues of Vladimir Putin, then they need to deal with the issues of Vladimir Putin. My responsibility is to this particular country and the people of this particular country. I don't care if he stuffed the vote. I do care if there is somewhat of a nuclear holocaust, because a reality show host as a president and a former spook can't necessarily get along and end up ending the planet as we know it. They should want tensions to come down. Lefties should want tensions to come down. I understand that they're doing this Donald Trump and Russia thing as if he's an animatronic robot. But fact is, I don't want a war with Russia. I do want tensions to come down with Russia. I would prefer this kind of bilateral interaction as opposed to the way that we've been going about our affairs. We are illegally in another country. They've been expanding the borders of NATO, not just expanding the borders of NATO. Part of the reason of the Ukrainian conflict is because of the expanded borders of NATO. Like, I'm trying to get across this thing. Those countries, the Balkan states, have been increasing the amount of money they've been spending to their military. This is not fiction. I mean, this is real life. Other wars were started in the same way where people didn't necessarily understand the severity of events that were taking place. I'm saying part of the plus of Donald Trump that I thought, he sounds serious about getting troops out of Syria and working with Russia. That's what I thought. So I am okay with this. I welcome this particular news. I don't want a larger conflict with Russia. I would prefer us to get out of Syria, or at the very least have some kind of coordination where we're not in each other's face or in each other's sphere of influence. Fact is, we shouldn't be in Syria in the first place. But beyond that, that's kind of besides the point. Just among the things that are possible and available to me, if a deal with Russia or association or a better relationship with Russia is part of it, that's a win. That's a win. Donald Trump is not an animatronic robot, at least not that I know of. If there's a potential for them to get along, I welcome it. No, you should not allow anything that would adversely affect the country, so I don't necessarily think that. And if I am wrong on the Russia thing, where there is something there, then hopefully we see it in advance. But at this point, I don't see it. It's not there. The best that they've come up with were Facebook and Twitter ads. I mean, come on. If you're going to come up with some conclusions, it should at least be based on some level of evidence. All of this stuff was ginned up by the Clinton campaign for politics or political ends and political reasons. This goes all the way back to like 2015, where they came up with this idea of slaughtering Trump with Putin and their association with one another. So, yeah, I'm skeptical of that particular argument. In fact, as a lefty, not being in this thing for war, I like the fact that they're bringing down tensions. If that means you need an introductory congratulations, then I don't care. give the introductory congratulations, and talk about getting better relations. So I will leave it at that. All the articles at the bottom. Somebody's here. Jamal sounds like he needs some rest. Yeah, I haven't slept all that well. That's fine. Morning Joe is a paid propagandist of MSLSD. Tell Mr. Putin have more leverage after the election. Barack Obama, yeah. Like, they forget that Obama shook the guy's hand after all of the stuff that they were saying was, it was like Vladimir Putin's a horrible guy. Vladimir Putin kicked puppies. Vladimir Putin killed babies. All this just nasty stuff. Obama didn't seem to have an issue shaking his hand. And mind you, beyond that, the conversation I was more concerned about was this. Trump middle school project level poster reveal much more about America blood-soaked backing of Saudi regime. This guy is a Saudi prince. He's at this point of doing a public relations campaign all around the world, spending the oil money that he receives from his country. And doing this propaganda campaign of trying to make Saudi Arabia seem like this forward, progressive nation. These are the blood-soaked, this group is the same group that's been murdering and starving Yemenis. There's a cholera epidemic in Yemen right now as a result of their actions murdering and killing and starving Yemenis. The United States has assisted with this program. They buy billions of dollars in weapons from us, which this blood for oil, and it's like blood for oil, but for all intents and purposes, it's defense for oil pact that goes back to like the 40s with FDR. The presidents have assiduously attended to this particular agreement and has not necessarily deviated from that agreement. They buy our weapons, they influence our political affairs, and no issue. This guy has a repressive government full of maniacs and killers, and yet Donald Trump is perfectly okay smoozing with them in the same way that Obama was perfectly okay smoozing, in the same way that Bush was perfectly okay with smoozing, in the same way that Clinton was okay with schmoozing. Same thing in the UK. The UK is not different in the sense. They buy massive amounts of weapons, and they use some of those weapons in order to murder Yemenis. I was bothered by this more than the other story. Yes, you're being conciliatory towards a foreign power. Good. I want you to be conciliatory towards a foreign power, especially if it's none of our business and we shouldn't be involved in the conflict in the first place. On the second front, having a conversation with a guy who is literally the head of a repressive regime, that seems worse to me. That seems worse, considering the fact that some of those pages relate to Saudi Arabia instigating them in 9/11. Considering the fact that Hillary Clinton herself said these guys export terrorism throughout that region of the world. Again, no issue shaking his hand, no issue dancing around some turban or something in his country. That was slightly racist. I didn't mean it that badly. And I'm joking when I'm saying slightly racist. Look, all I'm saying is they choose what to focus on. And the choice that they choose to focus on was Donald Trump congratulates Putin, as opposed to Donald Trump is trying to lower tensions with Russia. Donald Trump is working to limit nuclear proliferation with Russia. Donald Trump is, like, there's so many other stories, so many other perspectives that you could have used for that. It is a little weird that the perspective they take completely bypasses what they were talking about, the content of what they were talking about. Because the content of what they were talking about is actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing. Yeah, all these articles at the bottom. He was predicted to win about 70%. He got 74%. That seems consistent. Yeah, like anything else, there's a certain amount of propaganda that go into how we view Russia. So it's hard to know what's fact and what's reality on some of this stuff. I don't believe it or disbelieve it. I don't care, if that makes sense. Like, I care from the standpoint if I'm doing a story where I'm looking into it and trying to weigh whether or not it's one side or the other. In this case, it is irrelevant to the story. Donald Trump is having a conversation with another foreign leader. If the people of Russia want to get rid of Vladimir Putin, then the people of Russia needs to get rid of Vladimir Putin. It is not for us to do so. It's not for us to intrude in their politics. And look, that goes both ways. I don't necessarily believe Russia should be intruding in our politics either. That being said, I understand that countries do this stuff. I understand that countries seek influence, that countries seek to try to influence the political actors in particular countries to seek their betterment. All countries do it. All countries do it. So it's not that I think it's fucking awesome that one country intrudes in the other. I'm realistic in knowing that that's what they do. None of them have this kind of moral high ground to stand on. At least most of them don't have a moral high ground to stand on this point. I want them having a conversation, lowering tensions, because I think it is damn important. Do you realize nuclear scientists move the button to 2 minutes, or move the hand to 2 minutes? Like, there are signs. They're trying to get this stuff across that this is extraordinarily dangerous. And you don't have the political acumen of JFK. You have Donald Trump, a reality show host, as your president, dealing with this particular situation. I would like to keep all the calamity down as much as possible while Donald Trump is president of the United States. Pushing him to be more hostile and belligerent towards Russia is not in that goal scheme. It's not in that goal for me. Jelly Donut. Russian bot couldn't sway the United States public had the U.S. public lived well. Yeah. Jelly Donut. That's another point. Like, I continue to make this case that when they're talking about, when they're having this conversation about either Russian meddling, or they're having this conversation about, like, tensions in America, or talking about, like, an American Civil War, and all this other stuff, or even the delegitimizing of institutions. Like, when you get to the point where information that's coming into the country that's antagonistic towards the country itself, part of the problem is the country has lied so often, and not just lied so often, the country has leaned to one particular side with regards to cash so often. The politicians are outright bribed so often. In fact, it's not just so often, it is part of American politics at this point, with very few exceptions. They're bribed. They're openly bribed. You have, this is your political institution. You have a mainstream media that toes a corporate line, ignoring the real stories. Like this. This is a perfect fucking example. They ignore the main stories, the stories that actually matter to the American public, or that should add value to the life of the American public, in the sense that they need to know this in order to hold their government accountable. They don't do that. They don't do that. So you can understand the American public looking at these institutions with a fair amount of skepticism. They fucked me over. My wages have gone down. The top 1% have gotten magnificently wealthy. That top 1% is paying these politicians to act a particular way. I do not believe the things that they're saying. Congress gets like a 10% approval rating from the American public. If I am not mistaken, it's like lice had a higher rating. Like it's insane. Like what we're talking about in this case. Now, once you have that take place, and I use the term rot because it is, you've lost the trust of your public. The public has lost the trust of its institutions, meaning the public doesn't trust it. Information coming outside, yeah, can have an effect in cases like that. But that's not the fault of the information coming inside. That's the fault of the institutions that have miserably failed. If this was in the 60s, the government would have said something and people would have believed what the government said. Well, this is not the 60s anymore. People understand that governments lie. People understand that their governments lie. People understand that government has done horrendous and nasty things. And if the media is going to come out and tell a corporate media narrative of it and it doesn't align with reality, they're not going to trust the media, which is what you're saying. Same thing with the politicians. They don't trust it. So, yeah, people look for alternative narratives. Sometimes they call it counterfacts in this case when you're talking about like the alt-right. Or if you're talking about the left, not trusting the stuff that's being told to them. And understand, the Democratic Party lied profusely for months on end about rigging the primaries. They would look you in the face and saying, you're being a sore loser if you're talking about this rigged stuff, when they understood that they exactly were rigging the process. Issues with trust is not the fault of the American population. That's my point. That's my point. Russian bot tricked me into buying chunky peanut butter. Yeah, Mr. Sminks, I know it, man. They got me to buy a peanut butter cup. Bastards. I was trying to keep my diet down. Tim Bradley. Jamal, have you seen the Sanders-Warren Moore town hall? Even though it was DNC related, it was actually rather good. So I heard about it. I was going to do a story about it and didn't get a chance to get to the story about it before they actually had the town hall. I'm going to look at it. I like that they're talking about inequality. It puts this idea of class into the public conversation, which should be the conversation. Like, all this other stuff is nice. The conversation you should be having right now is about class. That is the conversation that the media is going to stay away from because it affects their corporate donors and corporate owners. But that is literally the conversation that needs to take place. Class. What is our living standard in our society? What should that living standard be, and how do we get to that particular living standard? If you're not asking those questions, you're never going to get to that point. It's just kind of free roaming, and yeah, it's capitalistic hellscape. Class should be the conversation, at least in my opinion. At least in my opinion. All right, guys, I'm going to end this one because I don't want this one to go too long. And I do have a few more after this, so I will probably see you guys back in about 10 to 15 minutes. Just to summarize, though, just in case anybody comes to the end. They're pointing the finger at Donald Trump, saying that he congratulated Vladimir Putin, and that for whatever reason, this is a bad thing. And I'm making the point that that is absurd. They're being utterly hysterical. And fact is, the story that they really should be talking about is the disarmament, or at the very least, the de-escalation of tensions between the two countries, which is what they literally talked about on the phone, and it's what many of these outlets are fundamentally ignoring or burying in the story itself. So I will leave it at that. There are things that I would hit Donald Trump on. If you want to talk about the environmental record, if you want to talk about the tax scam, there's plenty of things that you can hit Donald Trump on. Being conciliatory towards Russia and de-escalating is not one of them. That is not one of them that I'm going to hit him on, because I like the behavior of de-escalation. So I will end it at that. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone.